Welcome back to Buffalo Plus, our YouTube channel. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I am Jenna Cottrell. Hey guys, the AFC East got a lot better over these last couple of days with free agency. Mike, your impression of New England and Bill Belichick opening up his wallet this week?
Yeah, did you see that shot of Tom Brady after they won the Super Bowl, staggering out of the parade? That's Bill Belichick dealing with free agency right now. You know, it's like, I got some cash. I think he got his stimulus check. He decided to spend it all in the first 24 hours. I mean, look, I will say this. Their talent level was low. They were a mess. They don't have a lot going their way. They're bad at the quarterback position right now, though I think Cam will be better than he was last year because he's got more help. They definitely improved the talent level on the team. But I'm sorry, I hear these people saying New England's done similar things, bringing in players. No. They brought in players to fill in gaps when they had the core already there.
Yeah,
right.
They don't have a core. They're creating a core of guys. Yeah. I think they're good players, but they are not the guys they brought in, that they drafted, that they've had in there. I don't think it's going to work.
Well, Mike, they drafted 2 tight ends in the 3rd round last year and then just went out and, now have 2 out of the 5 highest paid tight ends. So spending in free agency, I think I saw Andrew Brandt tweet it, is part of a problem of not drafting well. And they haven't drafted well. The wide receivers, N'Keal Harry, like all these guys, they just haven't panned out. So now the question is, though, who is the solution at quarterback? It'd be tough for Cam to be worse than what he was, and who knows how much COVID affected him. But there's no getting around the fact that the division just got a lot tougher. And I think Bills fans have a little bit of this like, no, it didn't. Like, nobody's going to touch the Bills. It did. Like, and I get it. You're the defending divisional champs, and you can puff your chest out and point to the banner all you want. But I just don't see the Bills sweeping the division again with the talent that was brought in, with the Jets now having what seems to be a capable head coach, Jenna, and some of the guys, like I said, Carl Lawson, the Bills fans were drooling about him. He goes to the Jets and everybody's like, well, it's a lot of money. It's like, you would have loved to have Carl Lawson.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to cost a lot of money to get these top end free agents to come in. And they're not going to take a discount to be with the Bills because they don't understand, it's not the hometown type of thing. They haven't been in the building before. They don't know that aspect of it. I was thinking about it too, because I feel like if I were Brandon Beane, I would be feeling the pressure right now because, hey, he did a great job. He re-signed Matt Milano, got restructured contracts like Mitch Morris, guys like that. But it's like everyone around you in the division is buying a new car. You like your car. This is not speaking from experience at all.
Jenna has a great car.
Yes, it is. But everyone in the division got a new car, and you're like, no, my car's great. I really like it. But you're like, that's some nice new features. That looks pretty sharp. So it's like in your head of, okay, what is it going to cost, and will the Bills go out and do it? Because if I were Brandon Beane right now, I'd be like, everyone got better.
Yes. Jenna, it's a good point. It's sort of like when Beane last year when he said, when we got to the draft, I had to tell myself, Stephon Diggs is my number 1 pick. It's like you get to the draft, you realize, oh yeah, we have Stephon Diggs too. Yeah. We gave up for that number 1 pick. Here's the way I look at free agency in the NFL. The spending is like, I'll say, especially most guys, is spending on clothes, right? You might go out and buy something really nice, maybe some jacket, a suit, whatever it is. And then the rest of it, you go to Marshall's. You could probably get the same kind of thing for a lot less, right? Yeah. If you're following me here. If you are the kind of guy that wants to go out and spend top dollar, full retail all the time, have at it. But you don't have a salary cap. Most human beings have their own salary cap. I see this spending on the first day, and I find it to be absurd. It does not work. Fill in some holes, mix it in. But if you don't have the quarterback, you're just spending money on guys, is the way I look at it. And I'm sorry, I've told you guys how brilliant I think Belichick is as a coach, but this is not him. This is not the way he's operated. And I'm telling you, it's going to fail.
Sidebar, next time I can't do something because it's out of my price range, I'm going to say that I have a strapped salary cap situation. It's like just not going to work with the cap, guys. Sorry.
Well, and Jeremy White of WGR in Buffalo it has the picture that I've been tweeting out a couple times. He's tweeted out, it's the flow chart that of free agency, that if you get your player, you're like, this guy's awesome, he's the best. And if you don't get the player, it's like, well, it was just too much money, and we've talked about it. We've talked about it before, Mike. All of these deals are fine deals until they're not. And a lot of these deals can be voided in 2 years. I saw an article that was on the Ringer that they looked at, Spot Track went back and looked at every contract that teams have done since 2011. A 4-year contract, you're just as likely to be cut after 1 year as you are to stay all 4 years. And that's part of the Bills. I see people being like, these guys are locked up long-term. Look at how many guys are locked up long-term. Worry about this in a year. Like nobody would have thought that before this season that John Brown, if you were to go back to last year, nobody would be thinking, well, John Brown's going to be gone. But that's what could happen with the NFL. Yeah. Contracts aren't guaranteed, Mike, and it is a not for long league.
Yeah. Look at last year in free agency. And I was looking at the guys the Bills signed, right? But even in terms of the guys they went out and gave the big money to, I counted $41 million in guaranteed money over the first couple of days of free agency. Mm-hmm. Mario Addison, AJ Klein, Vernon Butler, right? Quentin Jefferson, all these guys. The best signing they made was Darrell Williams. Do you know how much guaranteed money Darrell Williams got in that deal?
Less than $1 million.
$275,000. Wow. Now, I'm not saying it always works that way, but there was a collective yawn when Darrell Williams was signed. It's like, oh, these guys bounced around. Darrell Williams. Mm-hmm. Okay. And now you've re-signed him, and he has become, and it's all short term, but a core guy now, right? He's your right tackle. You paid him. You want him to stay around. And what they do with the other guys? 2 of them, they cut salary. The other guy, they cut outright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They did not have a great free agency period last year. Nope. Bringing back Isaiah McKenzie was as good a move as they made in terms of going out and getting. Heck, Justin Zimmer was a great move. Signing him after they had him on the practice squad. So these moves were nothing. Now, I'm not saying all your moves are the cheap ones, because there's also guys they sign for nothing and you get nothing. But I just don't get too worked up in March anymore about the big ticket guy.
Yeah. And it's also kind of, it's post-draft, right? It's right after the draft. Like, this guy's great. He's going to be a star. And it's like, sometimes, it's not like when Matt Milano signed, I remember he was like part of another fifth rounder, and nobody asked a question about Matt Milano. Like, nobody asked McDermott or anybody about Matt Milano. And it was like, oh yeah, they got the linebacker from Boston College. Like that. And Mike, that's why you make this good point, is that like those signings, I look at what, when a Lorenzo Alexander signed, it was like, oh, he's a special teamer. Ended up being a Pro Bowler. Like a lot of these things, you just don't know how they pan out. But it is interesting to see where else, you have to find some guys. The Bills still need a second corner. They didn't tender Levi Wallace. Are they going to go with Dane Jackson, who played well at times and was spoken very highly of? But there are still some pieces that need to be done. It's just not the sexy moves that we thought.
Yeah. But I feel like there is still, I don't know. I feel like I'm waiting for something.
Oh, there's going to be moves. Oh, he's signing players. And let me tell you something. I don't know if they're in the market for a wide receiver. Like, I don't know who it is. But the wide receiver market, as we're recording this, has been lame. Like, these guys are not getting paid. Corey Davis got paid by the Jets, but there's a lot of wideouts out there. Yep. And there are guys who are going to take 1-year deals. I really believe that's the next phase that we're going to see. Guys who want to prove it for a year and see what happens. So they still could do that. I don't know about running back. I don't know if that's, but we talked about
we still talk about
tight end. Yeah. And the Zach Ertz thing, I'm on the Zach Ertz train for all this. And I keep saying this. He's going to get traded now. There's no doubt. New England did Howie Roseman the biggest favor in the world because they signed both of the available top tight ends. Yeah. So there are teams that need tight ends, including the Chargers and, possibly the Colts and the Bills and all these teams. And Ertz is now saying to teams, I don't need to renegotiate. Now, it may be a good thing, say, for a team like the Bills, if they got him, that they would stretch it out, do something else. I don't know if that's the case, but if you can make it work, look at the money the Patriots just gave those 2 guys. And Zach Ertz had more catches in 2018 than Jonnu Smith has had in 4 years in the NFL. And I'm not saying
that's a stat.
It's long term, but he had 116 catches in 2018.
Yeah.
In his numbers, it's funny.
Right.
Hunter Henry reminds me a lot of Zach Ertz. Younger, few years younger, certainly, but he plays like him a lot. Good in the red zone, not a burner, but good hands, all those things. But I think for the Bills, I think he is such a good fit for them. Such a good fit for them that they should make the move.
Yeah.
And Jenna, it's interesting too, because I don't think the Bills, this isn't a time where they need to make a big move. They made the big move with Stephon Diggs, right, Jenna? And it's funny because a bunch of people have, been in my mentions being like, Kendrick Bourne, like, oh boy, 2 touchdowns last year. Like, what's the big deal? Like, oh, like he didn't really do anything. And it's like, when Cole Beasley signed, he was coming off a really quiet year in Dallas and only had 3 touchdowns. Like it is very easy to nitpick one stat of a guy that doesn't go to your team, and you can go, can you believe these guys paid him? And then it's like, well, look at what it was. And then Beasley turns into an all-pro, Jenna. Like I think the Bills are in a spot where it's filling a couple, it's 1 or 2 spots. It's not we need to find a playmaker. They already have the playmakers, Jenna.
And that's why I made the analogy of everyone else is getting a new car, because when you look at it, like the Bills are in a great spot, but they haven't made that big splash that we were expecting or were hoping for, like a Carl Lawson, like the Jets went out and signed. Things like that and it is very easy to sit back and say, oh, that's a lot of money. I don't think that's a good signing. But again, you go back to Jeremy White's flow chart. If they sign him, it's a good deal. If not, it's too much money. At some point, you have to know when you're getting a player that's a free agent, that's a highly sought after guy, you're going to have to pay him.
And I will tell you this. In the division, the Bills obviously have their quarterback. The Jets are either paying Darnold and keeping him on the team, or they're going to draft a guy number 2 and turn it over to that guy.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins have Tua, and I believe they think Tua's their guy. Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I fault the Patriots. Now, there's been a lot of talk about them getting Garoppolo. Is he an upgrade? Yeah, he's a very different player.
Yeah.
He does things very differently than Cam. Is it an upgrade? Yeah. Yeah, I think he'd be probably a better thrower of the football. He takes away some of the things that Cam does, but I don't think all of a sudden it's like, oh, New England's got it. Would they? I mean, look, they're doing things they haven't done.
Yeah.
Are they going to go out and draft a quarterback in the first round? Are they going to they have a lot of draft picks. They've signed free agents. Is their plan to go to, and I'll use the Eagles as an example, a team that's at 6 and throw them a 1 and 2 2s
Trey Lance,
to move up to 6 to get Trey Lance, like something like, now we're talking. Now it's
Zach
a different
Wilson.
world.
That's why I feel like there's got to be something like that. You can't be bringing in all of these guys and having it be Cam, right?
I can't believe somebody said this to me, and it's broken my brain for the last 12 hours. Ryan Fitzpatrick would have made the Patriots contenders.
Yeah, I don't think
Contenders for what?
I think he makes them more
division.
Interesting. He's not 17 games worth of Fitz. I love the guy. He's
better than Cam.
Right now, I think him going to the NFC East makes Washington a contender, or at least more so, depending on what Dallas does. But
they used to be the NFC Beast, and now it's like the NFC Joke, and now it's AFC Beast.
Honestly, when I was saying NFC, I was like, it's not Beast.
It's not. It's the least.
Like,
the NFC least.
Well, I will tell you this: the NFC East. I mean, the Eagles are 4th. I think there's no question. Jalen Hurts would have to be really good for them not to be 4th. But Washington's pretty good. The Giants are a tough and physical team. They got to get better quarterback play. And Dallas has Cam back or Dak back. So that division will start to move up. I believe will start to move up. Really, I mean, at the moment, should be led by Dallas. But Washington is solid. And the Giants have talent, and they just signed Leonard Williams. They gave him a crazy amount of money. Things can change pretty rapidly in a division. But to your point about Fitz, I love the guy. I had to tweet it out because it's my favorite stat. But Fitz, could have gone to New England. That would have been interesting. But he's at Washington, which is good because now he'll play against the Eagles for the 8th time with 8 different teams. Is there anything better than that?
That's
It will be
incredible.
8 games with 8 different teams. Then he has to sit the second game. He cannot play
Correct.
in that game.
Correct.
It has to be
Yeah.
8 games. And he's 3-3-1. Of course he has a tie
Yeah,
just to be
naturally.
perfect. But yeah, would he be better? Would I like them better than with Cam? Yes. But they need better than that if they want to compete with the Bills.
And I think there are maybe a couple people watching and going like, well, what is the Bills' move? Like, do you guys have anybody that you were thinking of, or not even a name, but necessarily a move that gets made that, kind of fits a narrative or fits a piece? I've got one idea, but I want to hear, Jenna, what you think that the Bills still get done. Because we're recording this, 29 hours into free agency, the legal tampering?
We still have time. I want to make sure when I say this that he's not taken. Dan, why don't you go first?
Mike, you got one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
How about this? How about Richard?
I don't love that. I don't know.
I'm in Mike's category where I think that's the type of player the Bills land. We talked about J.J. Watt coming to Buffalo because he wanted to possibly win a championship. I think especially as the big money gets spent and teams are starting to see that, I can now start to see those veterans, those guys that are established go, hey, you want to know what? I don't got to deal with any of this rebuilding stuff. Like I don't want to have to deal with losing. Like I could go there. So I can see that. For me, it was whether it's a guy like a Ryan Kerrigan who may be a Trent Murphy 2.0 in a bad way. I don't know about that, but I kind of like something like that, or even a Justin Houston, another veteran guy that can just kind of maybe, again, another guy to teach Epinesa, another guy that doesn't necessarily need to play every single down,
Well,
and
that's
a guy that could take a 1-year deal pretty cheaply to know, like, hey, I just want to come to Buffalo. I want to win games. I know I can go back to the playoffs.
And that's an interesting position too, because you can really do that at defensive end.
Yeah.
Like you can mix those guys in there. But the reason I say, like, I don't know. I don't know what's in Richard Sherman's mind. 2 years ago, he played great. I have to say he played great. And he still has that ability. He still has big playability, smart. I mean, he'd be very good in their defense. Now, maybe because they went, with Josh Norman banged up, didn't stay healthy. Maybe they don't want to go down that road, but there are guys like that. Jenny, you got one?
I had a question because you talked about this earlier, Mike, and I'm curious because we haven't talked about it since, but you mentioned how in New England, like they're bringing in an example of them bringing in a bunch of free agents. And you said a couple of times, like, it's not going to work.
Right.
And I'm curious why you think that.
Because I really do believe in order for free agents to work, you have to have your core. You've got to have the dependable guys. You've got to say, we've got, and even I will give the Jets this. And maybe my mind will change on this if the Patriots go out and get a legit number 1 quarterback. At least you are starting from a position of, we know who the guys are. But I know they have McCourty. I know they have some guys that have been around, but they've let a lot of those guys go. For years, New England had the core. And then they would go out and cherry pick guys that would come in and be great for them. The Bills absolutely have the core. The Niners have the core of their team. The quarterback thing is a little odd, but they have the core, right? There are certain teams like obviously Kansas City. Kansas City could bring anybody in because they have those guys. They have the coaching staff, the core, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And New England has the coaching staff, but I think what's always made it work in New England is the guys coming in, they just knew it. Now, somebody mentioned Jonnu Smith. He's been with Vrabel and all this. I'm just looking at Jonnu Smith's numbers on the deal. $50 million.
$1 million the first year.
$15 million signing bonus. That's just his salary. $15 million signing bonus. He gets $17 million in 2021. $1 million per game roster bonus each year.
Not bad.
And in 2023, the deal still has $6.25 million in guaranteed money.
Wow.
So, that's the third year in as the tight end. And I guess my point would be Zach Ertz is $8 million. Jonnu Smith is Jonnu Smith. I'm talking about the Patriots even making that move. Zach Ertz for $8 million. Now it's maybe even a little different for the Patriots because they maybe realize they are building again. The Bills are looking at 2021.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is, but still $6.23 million guaranteed money in 3 seasons for a guy. I don't think it's a smart contract. I don't think it's going to work for them. Okay. And that's why I think this is the case. Trying to build by buying. Name me a team who has tried to buy it to win. Name me one.
Yeah, it's fair.
I just don't see it. And Tampa last year was a unique circumstance. Brady's there. I don't even think of Brady.
Completely swung and missed. That went right over my head. Completely forgot because they literally Gronk, Brady, Leonard Fournette. But you had Brady. It's
but
like
they were not even.
Team.
But think about it. Fournette had been sort of bounced around, and Gronk was retired and just want to play. Like it was more like get the band back together. Antonio Brown, and let's also be honest, they had some pretty good talent to begin with.
I was saying Mike Evans.
If they don't have those guys, you always got to get Mike Evans in there.
I just want to say that if you see anybody like tweeting. If you see anybody like tweeting from like what seems like a burner account that's like titled like Zach Ertz fan #1, it's probably Mike Catalana's. It's probably Mike Catalana's burner.
And you know what it is too about him? Honestly, I just think he's such a Bills player. He's such a fit for them. He is team guy, community guy, and productive guy. And he's the kind of guy years past that New England would have brought in. Maybe that's where I'm seeing this. Flip the circumstances. Bills are going for the splash years ago, and now it's New England doing that, and the big money for guys, Mario Williams and those guys. And New England would wait it out, make a deal, take the guy on a 1-year deal, and make it work.
But that's what's so crazy this offseason. And it goes back to last year where it was like they lose Brady, and they kind of lost that aura, and they just weren't the New England team. And we all kind of were like, holy cow, like the Bills are now the stable franchise. And they're the ones that can sit back and like I said, and I'm sure Brandon Beane wishes he had more money to spend. And he has said it during the last year, like maybe I wouldn't have done some of these contracts for whatever reason. But Beane is probably sitting on his hands, being like, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, like we're there.
Yeah, and I think he's thinking he's got 10 guys he's interested in at the right price, different positions. It'll impact. I kind of am the belief, I wish they would do this. I kind of am in the belief that the draft should happen before free agency. I think that would be better for teams. I think it would be better. You'd have the draft, pick your players. Teams might be a little smarter in the draft because trying to fill holes in the draft doesn't always work. Yeah. But hey, I wonder what your guy Warren Sharp thinks about all of a sudden the Patriots are going to go 12 personnel and play 2 tight ends all the time.
Yeah. Through the roof.
I mean, they didn't do it at all last year. Because that's not really Cam's strength. I mean, it was years ago, but
like I said, and I think what New England is trying to do is they're trying to force the hand a little bit of other teams and to get them, because I saw somebody else say that they're going to try and get teams to play nickel, which is put an extra corner or somebody like that, and then they're going to go back to that power run, whether it's Cam running the ball or whether it's the running game, that they want to try and get an extra linebacker off the field and kind of do that. And like, that is very Bill Belichickian. Like that's him playing chess while everybody else playing checkers, going like, who's doing that? But I will say this: the league has changed since Gronk and Hernandez Gronk and Hernandez kind of changed that, where they were like, holy cow, like a tight end can be a versatile piece, and you can have 2 of them. You don't just need Jimmy Graham, and like all of that's happened. And now you see, we've talked about this podcast before, that like, it's Kelsey, it's Waller, and it's Kittle, and then there's a drop-off, and everybody's trying to get those guys. And again, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are definitely a step down, but there is that tendency where we're even talking about the Bills need to upgrade their position at tight end, because it is such a mismatch now position that good offenses are exploiting coverages. Mike, you talked about it before we got on air, how important it was to sign Matt Milano. And then the Bills may have to draft a position, or whether it's Dean Marlowe is going to play more time. Like the Bills now have to think like, we're going to face a lot of 12 personnel. And that's what I've always said, is that like, I loved it when the Bills did that. Like, Jenna, they dictated what other teams would do to them. Like you don't react. You're the one pushing the tempo.
It is interesting that, Jenna, for years, New England would be versatile. One game they'd come out, run it down your throat. Next game they'd spread it out and throw, whatever it is. When you've paid this much money for those 2 guys, they're going to be on the field. Yeah. I by the way, and in the draft, as far as tight ends, there's Kyle Pitts, who is a Waller mismatch. And then according to the experts, it's a massive drop off. It's to just a bunch of guys, like maybe, late second day, if not third day for tight ends. and the other guy will go in the top 10. So
No.
so we'll see. Probably New England will trade up to get another tight end. And
they're going to be the Chicago Bears of last season. No, I mean, you make a good point, though, and I think that's why we've seen Brian Daboll coming from the Patriots have that attack of, all right, we're going to change it up. We're kind of going to take away what they do. And then this past year, seeing the Bills be the ones that saying, no, this is how we play offense. Yeah. You're going to have to adapt. But it certainly will make it fun to see how the Bills do adapt.
Well, and the Bills will adjust this year by becoming a power running team.
Come on. Like, we had such a nice talk. Like, that's so mean. Like, people watch this whole video, and then we got to this point, and Mike just throws that jab in there to, like, rile me up. Like, I've been calm.
I'm
like,
for Twitter.
Yeah. Like, I was going to say that, like, I forgot my point. I had a point, and I completely lost it.
Okay. You sure? You think about it for a sec? If not, I'm going to wrap up.
Yeah, you can wrap up. I can't believe, like, I swear I had a point.
Yeah.
And then Mike goes to the power running game. Oh, no. Nope, lost it again.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. I have a live shot for Channel 13 to do here in a minute. So go ahead, Jenna.
All right.
Mike works so hard.
All the time, nonstop.
I'm kidding. You do. All right. For Mike and Dan, I'm Jenna. We'll be back later this week as maybe the Bills add another piece in free agency. Thanks for watching.